The topic of this recording is Part 1 of an Introduction to Managing Quality, based in part on Chapter 6 in the Operations Management textbook by Heiser and Render. In this Introduction to Managing Quality, we will discuss the definition of quality, discuss why managing quality is so important, the power of it in dictating winners and losers in business competition, and the implications of quality, which will further underscore the criticality of success in managing quality. The definition of quality, as adopted by the American Society for Quality, the ASQ, is the totality of features and characteristics of a product or service that bears on its ability to satisfy stated or implied needs. What's most important about this definition is the customer perspective. A focus on quality as satisfying needs is a fundamental principle of best practice in quality management. Second, notice that the definition is broad, even all-encompassing. Quality is the totality of features and characteristics of a product or service that bears on its ability to satisfy stated or implied needs. Third, think about how challenging such a broad, all-encompassing objective is. And yet, with a bit of operations management science applied, it can be done well, and this single objective can separate winners from losers in current business markets. When you hear the term managing quality, what do you think of? Do you think of managing quality as a reactive process, something that consumes resources and funding, kind of the dues you owe if you want to be in business? Maybe a guy in a white lab coat checking whether product meets spec or not? Something boring, perhaps? If so, you're missing the importance, the power, the potential of quality in dictating the winners and losers of markets, of industries, of competition on a global scale. So let's try to reframe the picture and broaden our view with a look at history. Let's start with a view of two cities in Japan tragically destroyed in World War II. Nagasaki, one of the Japanese cities destroyed with an atomic bomb, and Tokyo, which was destroyed by incendiary bombs or fire bombs. By the end of World War II, Japan and the state of the Japanese economy, including the state of its people, infrastructure, resources, every aspect of its prior existence, was a picture of cataclysmic, apocalyptic devastation. There were 3 million people dead, 9 million homeless, a scarcity of food and clean water, and of all the most basic needs for survival. For just a moment, put yourself in that situation. Think about trying to recover from that. It's incredibly difficult to comprehend, but the Japanese did it, and they did it within 35 years of the time of these pictures. How? One of those most credited for the miraculous economic recovery in so short a time was W. Edwards Deming. And what was his role? Quality guru. Take a look at this article from the LA Times at the end of 1999. The 50 people who most influenced business this century. Ranking number 8 in the century, Douglas MacArthur and W. Edwards Deming. And here I quote, "Japan's path from post-war devastation to export powerhouse has involved many important factors, a lot of hard work and a bit of luck. But two Americans who played important parts in the world's greatest economic recovery story, a story that has altered lifestyles around the world and sent countless vehicles, VCRs, and Walkmans into our homes, are General Douglas MacArthur and quality guru W. Edwards Deming." Later the article goes on, as Japan's products started moving to overseas markets during the 1950s and early 1960s, their quality was often a joke. Made in Japan had such a bad connotation initially that many companies set up plants in the Japanese village of Usa, which allowed them to say their products were made in USA. It's difficult to believe now, but even Japan's vaunted autos flopped miserably when first introduced to the United States in the late 1950s. Much of the credit for Japan's flight to quality and the making of its world-class reputation goes to quality guru W. Edwards Deming. Deming urged companies to concentrate on constant improvements, improved efficiency, and doing it right the first time. End quote. One of the best-known economic victories, thanks to this quality revolution in Japanese manufacturing, was in the automobile industry. A famous, highly inaccurate forecast came from respected publication Business Week, which in the issue on August 2nd, 1968 stated, "With over 50 foreign cars already on sale here, the Japanese auto industry isn't likely to carve out a big slice of the U.S. market." Well, I think we all know how that turned out. In business competition, competition, where there are winners, there are also losers. The U.S. automobile manufacturers, the Big Three, were not just big, they were enormous, and they were arrogant. In 1937, the Big Three had 90% of total sales in the U.S. market, forming a dominant firm oligopoly. Today, in 2012, at the time of this recording, there are 2.5 U.S. automakers, General Motors, Ford, and Daimler Chrysler, collectively capturing 58.7% of the U.S. market. The quality management revolution paid off for the Japanese manufacturers in the automobile industry, the electronics industries, and many others. In less than 2 generations, made in Japan went from meaning cheap and poorly made to meaning top quality in consumers' minds across the globe. Pictures here show the same cities we saw earlier rebuilt and transformed. In the first, we see Tokyo as early as 1980, and then 2012 pictures of both Tokyo and Nagasaki. Now that we have considered the importance of quality management and have an idea of the potential that managing quality has for dictating winners and losers in business competition, we can easily understand the next few ideas. Improving quality improves profit. How? Potentially and realistically in 2 ways: through increased sales and decreased costs. Increased sales from quality improvements come from increased volumes demanded, and often through increased price. Increased demand is earned by meeting a market's need, the primary focus of quality improvement. Improving quality often increases the value difference of your offering versus the next best competitive alternative. This enables increases in price. Perhaps most important, quality is inextricably tied to a company's reputation. A strong reputation is key to a strong brand and pays dividends many times over for businesses. Customers often seek to do business with your company above other businesses based on credibility and trustworthiness that are tied to the business's reputation. As we know, profit equals sales minus costs. Greater sales are one way that improving quality increases profit, and lowering costs is the other way. Quality results in increased productivity, lower rework and scrap costs, and lower warranty costs. There's less risk of downstream costs that come from dissatisfied customers, like returns, recalls, liability costs, etc., that can not only be expensive in terms of immediate costs, but harm future sales and reputation. Given that improving quality improves profit through improvements in sales, through volume demanded and or price enabled, as well as improved costs, it follows that quality management is integral and critical to any of the 3 types of strategies a business may employ: differentiation, cost leadership, and fast response strategies. Though building a quality organization is a demanding effort, it's a determinant of winners and losers in marketplaces, and therefore worth the effort. Now that we understand the why, let's briefly look at how we accomplish this challenging objective. First, we articulate that objective. As an operations manager, your objective is to build a total quality management system that identifies and satisfies customer needs. The term Total Quality Management, or TQM, sounds simple, but it was about a century in the making. When we use the term Total Quality Management, or TQM, we mean a drive toward continuously improving quality that, 1, encompasses the entire organization, from the organization's suppliers through to the organization's customers, and 2, stresses a commitment by management to have a continuing company-wide drive toward excellence in all aspects of products and services that are important to the customer. In a broad sense, the answer to how we go about meeting the quality challenge will be TQM, and this will be discussed in other recordings. Next, we will revisit the why do it in considering the implications of quality. We've discussed the connection between quality and a company's reputation. A company's reputation is impacted by and impacts perception of new products, employment practices, and supplier relations. There are product liability implications associated with quality. To see these in action, we are going to consider an example of a company who will bring to mind Ben Franklin's warning that it takes many good deeds to build a good reputation and only one bad one to lose it. But before we move on to that example, let's remember that Japan's dramatic economic recovery and its success as an exporter, thanks to its quality improvements, demonstrates well the implications of quality in dictating winners and losers in global competition. Let's look at a global company that for decades was a paragon of quality and reputation and serves today as an example of the three implications of quality we just discussed. This New York Times online snapshot of Johnson & Johnson explains their current state at the time of this recording. In February 2012, their CEO stepped down after much damage was sustained to the J&J reputation for high quality, and after significant costs due to recalls of millions of bottles of medicine and tens of thousands of medical devices. Here I quote, "The news of Mr. Weldon's retirement came as Johnson & Johnson has struggled to emerge from a swarm of product recalls, manufacturing lapses, and government inquiries that tarnished the name of a company that was once one of the nation's most trusted household brands." Later, this snapshot moves on, saying, in the wake of the product recalls, Mr. Weldon and the company went on the offensive, initiating a public relations campaign aimed at restoring consumer confidence and revamping quality controls to create a single framework for the company's drug, medical device, and consumer healthcare divisions. End quote. J&J is also an example of the fact that quality goes beyond profit. There is a clear tie to ethics. Businesses are ethically responsible to deliver healthy, safe, quality products and services. Poor quality risks injuries, lawsuits, recalls, and regulations. Organizations are judged by how they respond to problems. Initially, J&J's first misstep was that instead of recalling tainted children's Tylenol in 2010, they sent contractors to stores to remove remaining bottles off of shelves surreptitiously without communicating the problems to consumers. J&J was judged quite harshly by that break in trust with the public based on how they responded initially to their problems. All stakeholders, consumers, employees, stockholders, suppliers, and the community at large must be considered. Think about a statement from the first chapter of the operations management textbook that said, "Only through increases in productivity can the standard of living improve." Think about the impact of quality improvements in the 20th and 21st centuries and how that is tied to productivity and our standard of living. The case study that opened the chapter Quality Management was on Arnold Palmer Hospital and the service it provides, delivering babies. Does the quality and cost efficiency of this service improve the quality of our lives? I do not think it takes a lot of imagination for us to figure out that it does. At the time of this recording, approximately 6 babies of every 1,000 born die within their first year of life in the United States. In the 1960s, infant mortality was over 30 out of 1,000, or 3% in the U.S. We've come a long way since then, but we still have a long way to go before we're really satisfied with this quality. In some countries in this world today, 1 out of every 10 babies die. Obviously, there are lots of factors and issues that contribute to these outcomes, but take a look at the tools employed by Arnold Palmer Hospital to manage quality. These TQM tools enable them to excel in the service they provide. Think again about the impact of this to not only our economy, but the very quality of our lives. Now, this concludes part 1 of An Introduction to Managing Quality in the Operations Management textbook by Heiser and Render.